Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Alex Vizori, Director of Product Management at Fortinet. I'm really pleased today to present at Mobility Field Day and being on the other side of the screen. Today, I'm going to present you Fortinet AI ML network operations with FortiAIOps. As others did mention previously, Fortinet Fabric is really wide, with internal products or third-party. It's allowing each independent node to exchange information and allow to have one rich source of information for analysis. This, of course, is including FortiAPs, FortiSwitches, and FortiGates, and any other device involved in the data path. And that over the Fabric REST API. This then allows to have some sort of automation across the full fabric. Today's networking problems have overtaken power supply issues. Today's networks are composed of different elements, which could be local or remote. We have seen previously that we have different kinds of deployments where we could have APs centrally deployed or on the same site and so on. So each of them are interconnected to each other, and therefore this could cause multiple issues to arise in the network and could impact user experience. Having experienced different roles within Fortinet with 13 years of support within TAC organization, as Tom was saying, I've seen the FortiGates without any letter. I know how difficult it is sometimes to go to the bottom of the issues and to really find the root cause of them. Most of the time, you would have to check different nodes, go from one place to the other, and so on to find the real picture and to go to the bottom of the issue. But that is implying a lot of manual steps. FortiAIOps is a network operation tool aimed to reduce those troubleshooting steps and to go faster to the resolution and reduce the time to troubleshoot tickets. It uses the power of the fabric, as previously mentioned, in order to deliver ease of use and tangible business overhead improvement. It's built with AI ML learning engine, and it is a full extension of the Fortinet Fabric Management Center. And therefore, based on that, and I will show you a bit later how this can be deployed, and in few clicks, you could have it running within your network. It's built, as said, around end user experience, trying to move beyond the 5 nines of uptime. Some questions are most of the time being requested. Is the network up? Is everything running? Or more precisely, is it running well? It's enabling end user to accomplish their goal doing their job. FortiAIOps correlates across the full fabric and will produce insightful analysis optimization and present it in an easy way within the graphical user interface. Of course, we are fully aware that this would never replace a well-designed or deployed network, but again, any error could occur within the network and impact end user experience. And this is what matters. As mentioned, FortiAIOps purpose is to improve network operations, drive down total number of trouble tickets, drive down resolution times, and improve the productivity and satisfaction of everyone using the network. FortiAIOps is doing that with 4 key things. The first thing is it is processing all events collected from the FortiGate. Again, as the FortiGate has built-in controller for managing wireless and switching, we would, of course, get all the event logs for the FortiAPs and FortiSwitches. Based on the events that we do receive, FortiAIOps will start to predict failure based on trained machine learning models. Periodically, it would review FortiGate configuration, but also review different processes, states to ensure that everything is running as expected, or try to correlate the error that we did detect with what we have deployed in the field. And this is allowing us to find the root cause of the issue. Based on those key elements, it would try to provide a client-level remediation to correct connectivity and or any other problem.
So is it a client agent to be able to do the work on the client?
No. As of today, FortiAIOps is just using what we have so far in terms of logs. So we just take what is being sent and nothing else.
So then how does it do the client remediation if there's not an agent?
So what we do is we do check different processes status. So we do have quite extensive kind of logs, and this slide I was going to say. Any kind of step that, for example, a wireless station would go through from the association, authentication, DHCP, DNS, or like from authentication, all sorts of things are being logged and analyzed from a central place being FortiAIOps.
Okay, so the remediation is made on the infrastructure side, the client isn't actually being changed. Okay,
yes.
Great.
But as we have the full picture, we have the FortiGate managing switches where VLANs are being configured and FortiAPs are being attached to that. And on top of that, you have the stations connecting to that. We have a full picture of the network, and this is allowing us to try to go to the bottom of the issue.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Welcome.
So I have to ask, what is your conception of root cause here? Because I hear root cause thrown around a lot, and sometimes it's sort of the unmoved mover kind of concept, the first thing to go wrong. And other times it's your channel planning could be better optimized, which is really a second or third order issue, because in that case, like the root cause would be poor design, or, they didn't set that up in the first place. So what's your idea of root cause?
So the root cause is pure NetOps oriented. For example, if we take DHCP, and that was like something I wanted to expose in the demo section, but let's go with that. If you take DHCP, well, it's quite wide. You could have any kind of issue. You could have the DHCP server being full. You can have the DHCP not being configured. You could have one interface being done on the FortiGate, and therefore DHCP server would not work. We could even have the DHCP process restarting prior or during the DHCP request. So we try to cover all those elements in order to capture what could have caused the station not to have an IP address.
Sure, and how deep down that rabbit hole does the system go, I guess is what I'm asking. Because like you said with DHCP, you run into a value question, right? So is DHCP your answer, or is it your scope isn't big enough is your answer, or is it something?
Yes. So in fact, we don't. Well, let me rephrase. FortiAIOps is taking logs, and based on those logs, what we do is we are going to get some telemetry from the FortiGate, meaning that if we do have a station that is, for example, for DHCP not having an IP address, we would have some REST API calls toward the FortiGate in order to determine what is the real issue. So it's not just a pure guess. We are going to gather the statistics and the status of the DHCP server. And based on that, if we know that for this specific SSID, we have this DHCP server, and that is being full, we know that that's the root cause of the issue.
Do you have any like engineer feedback on that? So if, for instance, your AI said it was X, but it was Y, is the engineer able to go in and train that AI to say, you got this wrong this time, this was the actual answer, and then that will feed back into the algorithm to enforce it in the future?
As of 1.0 release, we don't have that, but we do plan to have much more like algorithms to train the engine, but also to acknowledge. So to say, yes, I acknowledge this issue. I know it's that, for example, it's an issue that I'm aware of and I cannot do anything, or, well, you did wrong and, well, you need to reassess that. So we are looking toward that for the next releases for sure.
Great, thanks.
So one more thing I wanted to explain is we do cover, as mentioned, DHCP, DNS, RF, authentication, association from a wireless point of view, from a switching point of view for some of the elements. But also what we do is we're looking after the availability of the nodes within the network. So FortiAPs, FortiSwitches, and FortiGates. But also we are checking different environmental sensors of the different nodes in the data path. So trying to ensure that you didn't have an issue caused by a switch rebooting, a switch disconnected, or things like that. So we are trying really to go to the root cause of the issue, even if it is not on the wireless side. So going quick, I wanted to dive a bit on how it is integrated within the Fabric Management Center. As you can see here, you can see the Fabric Management Center graphical user interface, where you could have the device management, the policy object management, wireless switching, 4G, 5G extender management, and all sorts of things. FortiAIOps is sitting as a management extension, and within 2 clicks can be downloaded and installed, and you can go with that. I wanted to go a bit deeper on how we see FortiAIOps deployments. We did mention that, and I think Tom was mentioning about our SD1 or SD branch. The most typical way of deployment would be having some APs connected to a switch, where both of them, or 40 APs and 40 switches, would be managed by the built-in wireless and switching controller on the FortiGate. That can also be complemented, as we mentioned, with the SD1 or WAN capability, where we could add also the 4G, 5G, 40 extender, WAN extender, to have the full site or the full branch. What you would have most of the time is all those branches would go to a data center or to a headquarter HQ, where you would have all the management Fabric Management Center nodes being hosted there. The first one would be the manager. So the manager node would then do the provisioning, do the monitoring, and connect securely toward the FortiGate to get some information. As security is a concern, you should log all your data, and we have the analyzer module that would receive in real time logs from each independent FortiGate, and as mentioned, each independent node being managed by the FortiGate, meaning wireless and switching. So where does FortiAIOps sit? FortiAIOps is sitting inside the Fabric Management Center. And what it is doing is we can, of course, receive logs directly from the FortiGates, but we do think that as we are already sending logs toward the FortiAnalyzer, and FortiAnalyzer is able to send them back in real time to FortiAIOps. Also, we have a concern on the uplink bandwidth utilization of our sites. As most of the time, those sites would be DSL connected, the uplink is sometimes a challenge. So we do rely on the logs we already have inside the data center, inside the Fabric Management Center. From a management point of view, FortiAIOps is inheriting all managed FortiGates from the management node, meaning that in few clicks, you can get all those FortiGates and then being automatically started to be analyzed from AIOps. Also, sitting inside this Fabric Management Center, we are also capable to reuse the secure tunnel we have between the management node and the FortiGates, and therefore allowing us to get some telemetry out of those FortiGates. And that's more or less what I wanted to show you. And I was about to go to a live demo. Do you have any questions before I go?
Yes, I have a question, Alexandre. So looking at your previous slide, you're looking at the FortiAIOps being like part of the network of a specific customer, I guess. My question would be, do you share any data between the different FortiAIOps and the different customers? And because usually when we talk about AI and machine learning, we're talking about big data and learning from a big set of data so we can actually make the algorithm better and more intelligent. Is it something that you guys are trying to do here, or is it just like a local, like an added insight piece that you add to the solution you have for different customers? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I see what you mean. So something I didn't mention is the Fabric Management Center can run on premises, can run in the cloud on some like whatever, like AWS, Google platform, whatever, can run there. And FortiAIOps can run inside those instances. So it can be a physical appliance, it can be a virtual appliance. As of today, it is dedicated to a customer, meaning that you deploy your Fabric Management Center and you have your FortiAIOps. However, what we do have is we have what we call the administrative domain, the ADOM concept, where the Forti manager and the Fabric Management Center could be shared with different customers. And then this could allow FortiAIOps to be used by different customers.
Maybe you can detect that you have one specific bug on one specific switch, on one specific firmware version, and then you could just notify all the other customers, we found out this bug, you may want to upgrade to this specific firmware version. That was more, my thoughts around this.
That's a good thought, and that's a really good feedback. This is something that we are planning for future, but as of the initial release, this is not something we have.
If I can just say something specifically to your question, Francois. So if you think about it, I think you maybe were alluring towards a multi-customer kind of data lake, so to speak. And in actual fact, if you look at how we do things with security in terms of the FortiGuard network, we're dealing with over kind of 10 billion events a day on that, and pooling all of that data together to be able to produce the security solutions that we do. So certainly further down the line, we're using our existing know-how and infrastructure that's in place for security to gather all of that telemetry is something we will definitely be looking at in future releases for FortiAIOps, if that makes sense.
And also I have a question related to authentication. So I think you guys have like a NAC solution that you can use as a radio server and authenticate the users. Do you have the visibility into, in that part of the network when you do the FortiAIOps? Because I think it's important when we have authentication issue to be able to drill down and get access to the radius log and get a little bit more information than just, the radius server is down. Because radius server could be down for a lot of different reasons. But if we can get access to the radius logs, then we can just say, this different user don't have the permission to connect, or they didn't use the right password, and we can have a little bit more granularity into the insight that we provide.
Sure. To answer your question, as of today, yes and no. So we have, from the pure FortiGate point of view, we have all the authentication logs, but we don't have the like AAA logs. But nothing is preventing us to do that, and that's already like planned for the roadmap, because all our products are REST API compliance, and we have ways to get things. And having also the analyzer module where the authenticating part could also log there, we could definitely add that to FortiAIOps and do some correlation. This is something we do plan, but as of today, it's not yet there.
I think it will make troubleshooting easier, and you could even imagine having like the system creating a ticket automatically and saying, user X use the wrong password. They might contact you because they can't connect to the network, and you already know why. So
exactly,
that'd be nice. Yeah.
More to come in future. Yes.
Do the FortiAIOps, does it take positive action, or is it purely a notification device? And if right now it's at notification, are there plans to move towards positive action later?
So as of today, it's only display. So through dashboards, we do plan and we do look after getting some automation. But the feedback we had from different customers is sometimes they are reluctant to get a product to do some like automated actions in their network. So we would like progressively move to the automated actions, but we want to ensure that customers are confident, not that our product is not yet ready, but we just want to show them that this is the right direction, and allowing them to decide if they want to just get some warnings or go to the next level where the product FortiAIOps would do some automated actions such as enabling a VLAN, rebooting a switch, or doing some stuff inside the network.
Do you currently suggest what actions they should take? Or is it just sort of problem identification?
Can I answer your question during the live demo?
Yeah, please.
Thanks.
No problem.
Any other question?
I'd just like to pick up on the automated automated remediation part, if that would be okay, while you're getting the demo ready, Alex, because we spent a long time talking to various customers of all different shapes and sizes, all different maturities. And there was definitely a real reluctance that we found, a hesitation, should I say, that they would much rather have a suggestion of what has gone wrong, or an identification of what has gone wrong and a suggestion on how to fix it, rather than the action to be taken itself. We find that a lot of customers are quite conservative in their approach to something else pressing the buttons for them. They're more than happy to have the information and to get the insights, but they really still want that, if you like, the human element to be pressing the button on making the changes, because they don't want something to suddenly happen that they didn't know about and then they have to unpick, right? I think as a concept, automated remediation is fine, and certainly in the security area we push that very, very heavily, and it's needed because you need to shut down threats and vulnerabilities before they before they happen. On the networking side, the feedback that we got from customers was there's a bit of hesitation there. So that's why we've concentrated to begin with on getting recommendations and recommended remediation in place before we add the automation part.
So when you're giving, this is the, and I'm sure this is what the demo is going to show us, so if it is, just tell me. So when you say, okay, this is the problem, this is the thing we've identified, do you also then give the engineer, these are the reasons why, so these are the things that it's picked up, so that we can dive into those things individually?
Exactly. I'm going to show that to you in a few minutes. So I said, as we have full access of the REST API on all the nodes of the network, we have ways to check different elements and to ensure on what is the root cause. I can answer to your question in a few minutes, and if it is not enough clear, we can come back to that. Okay. So let's move to, as you can see here, that's a FortiGate. We would consider that as a typical branch deployment. I'm just going to go quickly on why we mentioned that. So the first thing that we could see is the one side. So for example, here, going too quick, I have what we call a Forti extender, so our 4G, 5G WAN extension being connected and therefore added to our SD-WAN configuration. In this SD-WAN, you can see different interfaces, which could be the physical interface, a VLAN interface, it could be an IPsec tunnel, or it could be also, by example, the Forti extender. Once you have created your virtual WAN link, you would also see different metrics such as bandwidth, volume, sessions, and so on. But based on that, you can do some SD-WAN rules. So say which node is going where, what kind of, for example, what kind of strategy I want to use, if I want to use manual, best quality, lowest cost SLA, or maximize bandwidth. Based on that, you can really define and optimize your WAN uplink. And of course, once you have done that, based on what you have configured, it would provide you some kind of information from the SLAs for packet loss, latency, and jitter. You can have different kinds with already some predefined SLAs, where you can see you have AWS, DNS, or default FortiGuard, Gmail, and so on. But you could create your own custom SLAs. Moving on the other side of the FortiGate, what you would get is you would get the built-in wireless and switching controller, where you would get, by example, the FortiLink interface managing all the backend switches. Backend switches would be then connected. In my setup, I have 3 Forti switches. And based on that, you can get a topology from a switch point of view with different aspects, with the like ports being used, if, for example, a spanning tree is discarding the traffic, and so on. So we have a full visibility of that. Of course, VLANs are a virtual interface of the FortiGate, and you could create any security policy on top of that. Creating a VLAN that is pushed to multiple switches is as easy because the VLAN is hosted on the FortiGate. Therefore, you could push in few clicks towards multiple switches. And you can see here, all my switches ports are being defined here. You have a single configuration for your full network. Moving to the APs, before moving to FortiAIOps, I have 4 different APs with different SSIDs, with quite some few clients being connected. We have different tools to troubleshoot, but I'm not going to cover that today. And we have all the connected clients. As of today, there are about 20 being connected in my home network. Moving to FortiAIOps, FortiAIOps is residing on the Fabric Management Center. Whenever you go there, and that's a screenshot I was showing to you before, you would go to the management extension, you would click, in my case, it is already downloaded and enabled, but you would end up there on this screen, on this dashboard. What we have is we have a summary of the connected versus impacted stations with some trends over time. The default dashboard is showing you the last 2 hours, but you could easily go to last 4 hours, last 6 hours, and up to the last 2 days. We have different graphs representing the impacted stations from a switching point of view, from a wireless point of view. In my setup, I only have 2 FortiGates, but you could have 5, 10, 20, or whatever. And this section is showing you the top three impacted sites where we did see most of the issues. Moving below, we have the wireless and the switching part, where the wireless is showing you all the SSIDs that are being impacted. You can click on them in order to filter if you want. Of course, we have the same trend as above, but just only looking after wireless. Then what we have is we have the SLAs. We have, as of today, 3 kinds of SLAs for wireless. As said, we do rely on logs, and also we do check all status of the FortiGates, FortiAPs, and switches. The first one is the successful connect, ensuring that station can associate, authenticate, get an IP address, and get DNS resolution. The second one is the time to connect, checking all those different portions of the connection and ensuring that we do have a response within a correct time. And finally, checking, as said, if the AP was rebooted, if the AP CPU is high, if the memory is high. Soon we would add also the SOC temperature of the AP, and moving forward, adding much more checks on that side. So again, those metrics are really easy to understand. Green is okay, moving to yellow, then moving to orange, and finally moving to red when you have a lot of issues. How to get the insights? So if you click, you would get a full topology of what is being connected, but not from a pure connectivity point of view, but from an impacted station point of view. So just prior to this presentation, I started to get some errors in my network just to show you what it was. If I take, for example, a typical DHCP issue, my SSID is called DHCP full, easy to remember. And what I did is I did only allow one IP address to be given to stations, meaning that I have 2 stations, one could get an IP and the second one couldn't get it. What we do is we do receive this information, but we just know that the station couldn't get an IP address. What we would do is we would highlight the issue, first of all, and as I've been requested, what we do is we just mention that, well, we did see that VLAN 0 of interface DHCP full was list full, meaning that we know that there is something occurring with the scope of the DHCP server. Of course, that's not an ideal case where I hope you would not only allocate one IP address, but it could occur to a /24 or /whatever network because you just didn't properly set your list time, for example, and you have a huge amount of people coming, visiting your office. So this is what we do, is we are not just saying we didn't have an IP address, well, the station didn't have an IP address, you should check your DHCP server. We just point which VLAN of which SSID, which interface is causing the issue and what is the real issue. Same if we go for the one of the most common issue, which is the invalid MIC, which could be a .1x issue, or which could be just a PSK or MPSK issue. We have the same, so I did connect, it was like for a 1x authenticating SSID. So you can see the username, and you can see that this station couldn't get an IP address. And sorry, the station couldn't successfully connect. And as Francois was mentioning, as of today, we just point out that this specific Radius server failed to authenticate with this station due to username or password. What we are going to do next is, of course, via REST API, at some point, get this information from our AAA Radius server and point what exactly was the issue. Was it the user? Was it the password? Was just the Radius server in question? And so on. So we have quite a lot of checks on DHCP, on DNS. We have also some sorry, I lost my words. We also have some, some for the connectivity. So if, for example, a client is sticky and you did enable sticky client removal, we would highlight what are the thresholds being configured on this specific SSID and what was the threshold that the station had when trying to connect to this SSID. The last point I wanted to highlight is, well, we are trying also to give a bit more insight on the station. If the station was connected prior, we would have some client level details. If it was not connected, and here in this case, you would not get that. So for example, that's a point. But if I go on one that is maybe here, you would get the client details because it was connected prior and we know what was the station. We know when it did associate, what was the channel, what kind of device, which AP it was connected to, and so on, from a pure device point of view, and also from a connectivity point of view. Finally, what we have is we have all the corresponding logs that did occur in between when the event occurred. So you could cross-check what could have been the issue if you think that you don't have enough data out of the product. So that was the. Are
you doing PCAPs of any of this stuff as well, or is it just logs that you're collecting?
As of today, we don't do PCAPs. We would definitely maybe look into that, but we need to see how this could be done if we would not overload the AP. Do you mean automated PCAP, or do you mean on-demand PCAP, which could be automated afterwards, by the way?
Yeah, both. Yeah. So obviously, I guess having like a PCAP that's always happening, and then when it detects a problem, being able to just scrape up, say, the last,
So as of today, we have ways on the FortiGate to do PCAPs on specific interfaces. So we could start with that and expand that later on to doing that on the APs or switches. What we do already is we have quite. We have what we call the device identification database that is monitoring the full network from a switching point of view, and that is already doing some PCAPs to analyze the pattern of traffic and determine the type of devices it is. So based on the powerful REST API we have, this is something that is not at all achievable. Well, that would be achievable, and we could consider at a later time.
You know, when you said you can correlate it with other logs, was that other logs just for this device, or was it across the entire network?
So what we do is, first of all, we have logs segregated. So we have the wireless log, we have the switching log, we have the FortiGate event logs, and all sorts of logs, even traffic. What we are doing cross checks is, by example, if a daemon is restarting, and if a station is being impacted, we will cross-correlate both logs. But that also could come from a switching point of view. A typical example that I wanted to mention is from the switch side. So for example, as you know, and people would say Wi-Fi is not working, but issue could come also from the switching side. And if, for example, we do have the switch being like having high temperature, or having been rebooted, or having the CPU that is like nearly 99% of CPU, this could definitely impact user traffic and wireless traffic. So what we do, by example, is all those events that we do check for the switches, we do feed the wireless engine to say, hey, we did see that this switch was impacted or is impacted, and you had the station being impacted from wireless side. This could be due to the switch misbehaving. Is it answering your question?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. I guess, and this isn't particularly just issued really at Fortinet. I see this on a lot of systems. They seem to be very good at identifying problems. So, you know, DHCP Scope out of line. My big thing with a lot of these is trying to move on to answering the question of, well, why did that happen? Because a lot of networks are quite well architected. And I'm not saying these problems don't happen where people configure small DHCP scopes, but very often you have a network that's working well and configured well. And then when a problem occurs, something causes that problem to occur. And it may not just be that you don't have enough IP addresses in your DHCP scope. Maybe, I don't know, there's a BYOD wireless LAN has gone down, or some part of it's gone down, so everyone from that network's now connected to the GETS network and they've run out of IP addresses.
Yes.
There actually might be enough IP addresses for its primary use, but some other event has happened which has had a knock-on effect on DHCP scopes. Or maybe that actually the amount of GETS coming in has rose slowly over time. So again, are you looking for baselines and trends changing over time? So you can say, well, this has happened, but it's happened because of these other events, and actually maybe even pre-warn you that something like this is getting close. I guess that's what I mean by cross-correlation.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something we are currently working as we speak. So we are looking at getting some trends on different levels, which could be the radio bandwidth, the the FortiAP interface bandwidth. It could be any kind of metrics we do check also from a switching point of view. Is the uplink well negotiated? Is the FortiAP interface well negotiated? As of today, we do have APs with 1 gig, 2.5 or 5 gig uplink, meaning that we don't know. Do you have a badly cable that is causing your AP to have like 100 megs, and therefore you would have a really poor bandwidth. So this is something that we are already implementing and will be part of the upcoming release. And that's kind of things that we also look after. We will look after, the trends, seeing that if an AP is starting to go more and more with high CPU, with high memory, or with more bandwidth that is about to reach the maximum capacity of the radio.
I think your question, Peter, is really, really interesting, because what you're, I think, alluding to there is almost cross cascade correlation. So one event which may look to begin with unrelated, causing an issue, somewhere else. And I think you're right in the fact that a lot of AIOps is actually concentrated on getting into the weeds very quickly to see what the cause is, but the cause could actually be a symptom of something else, which I think is what you were saying with the, well, this network's down over here. I think the beauty of the fabric, of the security fabric, is that at the moment we are, we're pulling these logs from a FortiGate and FortiAnalyzer, but we have all of these other solutions like FortiSIM and all of the FortiMail, all these kind of things. I mean, it could be in the future. There's no reason why with this ecosystem we can't start to correlate events from, I don't know, some spam coming in from FortiMail, which causes an issue somewhere else, which causes an issue somewhere else, which correlates down into something that impacts the user. And I think what we're going to talk about with FortiMonitor, doing the end-to-end user experience as well, will help us get to that kind of utopia, so to speak. We're not there yet. This is the journey where we're pulling in wireless and switch to begin with. But the great thing is that we have this infrastructure and this open ecosystem with the fabric to be able to pull all of this information together. And that's definitely a utopia that we want to get to. That is for sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's something that you see a lot today. I think the data's there. I'm just not sure. We're always using the data always in the most intelligent way. I would say a lot of the time we focus on what I call problem identification, and it's easy to call that root cause analysis, but I'm not sure it always is. But I do believe we can get there. I just think it needs people thinking about it a bit more.
I think that's a fair point, and I would love to get further feedback on you from that and see what we can do to actually make that happen. Because for me, if anybody's got the infrastructure and the pedigree in doing that across 10 billion security events a day, to be able to apply that know-how to networking, it's us to be able to do it.
Hi, just a quick question, please. I'm sorry, security is not my forte, so I will ask more a little bit on the wireless side. With all this, AI optimization and, mitigation problem, did you guys develop any specific features for AX, like, to optimize all of DMA on the network, on the wireless side, all the other new features that came along with the AX to help, optimize and improve the wireless environment?
So what I can do is I can flip that round a little bit and answer it in a kind of backwards way, if that would be all right. So what we have coming very shortly with this is integration into something called Service Assurance Manager. And Service Assurance Manager is a feature on our wireless LAN management platform, where we actually take an AP and we turn the third radio in it basically into a client. So it looks at everything from the physical layer through to running things like captive portals and all these various other things, all the way through the authentication, in order to be able to get those insights. So because we have AX radios in there, we can get the insights from a AX file level, if you like, or from there. Specifically to answer your question about do we do anything particularly to optimize it through this platform, right now the answer is no, we don't, because we've been looking at getting the general wireless and switch data into here, so we can start applying it and looking at the causes. I won't say root cause again because Peter brought that up, but looking at it from a causality perspective. So the answer is no, we don't do anything specific on that, but we are developing the integration with Service Assurance Manager, which will give you the full client side view, even from an AP, because we're effectively simulating that AP connecting as a client. And it also will give you the ability to start getting the even more training data, because you can schedule that and do it. So even at quiet times when there aren't many clients connected to the network, you could run all kinds of high impact tests if you wanted, without having to set up separate infrastructure. So we think that's got a lot of potential to also put a lot of data into this kind of platform.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
So looking at the problem analysis on the page before this one that you were speaking about, is there a way for us to contribute to that chain or see the decision chain that led to you saying it's this and this in DHCP instead of, I don't know, the network just being completely down or, power failure? Is there a way for us to view how it got to that choice and then contribute?
What I'll do is actually you can dig down into the, if you like, the process behind how that was got into.